Before I get to my message, I want to share with you some things our mothers taught us, because you know how wise mothers are. Amen? Amen. My mother taught me to appreciate a job well done. If you're going to kill each other, do it outside. I just finished straightening up. My mother taught me about religion. You better pray that comes out of the carpet. My mother taught me about time travel. If you don't straighten up, I'm going to knock you into the middle of next week. My mother taught me logic. Because I said so, that's why. My mother taught me foresight. Make sure you wear clean underwear in case you're in an accident. Come on, let me see a show of hands. You know she said that. My mother taught me irony. Keep crying and I'll give you something to cry about. My mother taught me to appreciate a job well done. If you're going to kill each other, do it outside. I want to tell you, I remember Mama. I remember my mom fondly. She was an awesome woman. How many of you remember that old TV show, I Remember Mama? You got to be three of us, right? It was brought to you by Maxwell House Coffee, good to the very last drop. Niels and Lars, the Olsen family. Boy, I remember that as if it was yesterday. I too remember Mama. Mama ran the house like a 4-star general. She was focused, loving, kind, gentle, smart, beautiful. My mother was a homemaker and she was proud of it. She was a Balabusta, a Proverbs 31 wife. She was told she would never have children, but she never gave up. 10 years later, I was born. See, don't listen to the report of doctors. Whose report do you believe? Huh. Thank God she believed the report of the Lord, because I wouldn't be here if she didn't believe that report. And 4.5 years after me came my brother Howard. Why? Because she said, every boy needs a sibling. I'll tell you what, I miss my mom, not just on Mother's Day. She loved to cook, and she was great at it. My bubby taught her. My bubby lived with us for a time. She taught her how to speak Yiddish, too. I hated it when my parents spoke Yiddish because they knew I couldn't understand it. But I had the last laugh my bubby taught me. So now they're having a conversation in Yiddish, and I ask a question in Yiddish. I wish there had been a photographer there to see the expression on their face. But it didn't deter my mom. She switched to Pig Latin. I still can't get Pig Latin. Our home was full of love. When my Uncle Charlie got sick, Mom opened our house to him and my Aunt Esther. That's just how she was, always there like a rock. And she was an expert at everything from cuts of meat. When I would go to the butcher, she says, make sure you tell him first cut. To emergency medicine, taking care of scrapes and cuts. And she had this big wooden bowl, which I inherited, with a chopper, a hand chopper. And in it, she would make the most delicious chopped liver. My job was to chop. Well, you know how kids are. I'd give it the old 1, 2, 3, and I say, here it is, Mom. She'd say, a bissel more. I chop some more. Here it is, Mom. She'd say, a bissel more. She never said, what's wrong with you? She never said, that's not good enough. All she said was, abyssal more. But I got the message. If you're going to do a job, you got to do the job right. She was the smartest person that I know, and her smarts weren't from a book. They were self-taught, and she had great common sense. Everybody loved her. She had more friends than you can shake a stick at. She preferred to hang clothes on a line out back. She said they smelled better that way. Translation, we couldn't afford a dryer. But you see, she always saw the good in the situation, not the bad. She ironed everything. And when I say everything, it included my father's shorts. Yeah, wow. I want to tell you, she'd take the clothes out of the washer and she would roll it up and then put it in a big plastic bag and put the bag in the refrigerator. And then anytime she felt like ironing, she could take it out. It was still damp, and away she went. She taught me how to iron. To this day, I can iron a shirt as good as any one of you mothers out there. Hallelujah. For years, my mother had my brother and I convinced that she had secret powers. Now, what do I mean by that? If we would say something and she thought we were fibbing, she would lift the hair up on her forehead and say, "You can't fool me. It says right here that's not the truth." And we believed it. It was uncanny how she could nail us every time. It's really interesting what we remember, isn't it? Mom had some bad habits. She'd make us finish our plate, even the stuff we hated. You know, there's a Jewish proverb that says, a mother understands what a child does not say. Think about that. They really do. She knew when we were hurting, and she knew just what to do to remedy the situation. My mom was a Cub Scout den mother, and our house was the focal point for all the kids in the neighborhood. But my mom knew how to instill fear in the heart of children. It came via a wooden spoon that was a heavy wooden spoon. And she would chase us around the house, yelled, "Stand still, this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you."
Not the same place.
I didn't believe it until I said the same thing to my kids. "Stand still, this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you." But when we did something that was especially egregious, she said those 6 words that every child fears. "Wait till your father gets home." Oh, that was the coup de grace. There was no way. We had to hide. And I mean, there was no place we could hide that he couldn't find us. And he'd say, "Stand up and take your medicine like a man." Wow. I remember going to synagogue every Friday night with my mother, rain or shine, and we walked both ways because we were Shomer Shabbos. And when my dad opened a restaurant in New York, Mom was the hostess, and she was so good at it that she would get a job offer every week from one of the customers. Where did she spend Mother's Day? Working next to my father, because Mother's Day is one of the busiest restaurant days of the year. Now, believe it or not, I learned how to drive before my mother did. And when she finally got her license, only the brave or the very foolish would be willing to ride with her. Truth be told, her driving even scared her. Come to think of it, That was just about the only thing she didn't do well, except for balancing the checkbook. To my mother, math was an approximation. You just needed to be close. That's why she never recorded pennies. They were just an annoyance. They just got in the way. But despite her unique way of balancing a checkbook, she never bounced a check. And after my dad died, my mom went to work as a cashier at a women's store in New York called Loman's. And this was their second store. The main store was in the Bronx. And if any of you are from New York, you know Loman's. Well, the manager of the store saw something in her, and within 6 months, she was the assistant manager. And she had customers that would come from all over Long Island because my mom would put stuff away just for them. She had a knack of making people feel welcome, making them feel at home. Many of my fondest childhood memories are the time I spent with her, especially New Year's Eve. My parents were having a party, and she would go all out to make a party for my brother and I. And that tradition was passed on to our children. My daughter Michelle, in her senior year at Harvard, wrote a piece called My Grandmother. I want to read it to you. She smelled of Estee Lauder and freshly baked cookies and cakes. She was my grandmother. Grandmom was a beautiful, caring woman, and it showed in everything she did. Many of my fondest childhood memories are the time I spent with her. I think my favorite one is New Year's Eve, 1978. My parents were having a party, so my brother Craig and I were to spend the evening upstairs away from the adults. Grandmom thought it wasn't fair that we couldn't welcome New Year's with a party as well. She decided that we would have our own private party. No adults other than her were allowed. We spent the morning preparing lists of what we would need for our party, and the afternoon was spent preparing the feast. We spent hours in the kitchen making Grandmom's special Swedish meatballs, a sour cream cake, French bread pizzas cut into bite-sized pieces. By the time we had finished, it looked as if a bomb had exploded in the kitchen, but the smells were heavenly. Flour covered the counter and the floor. Sauce from the meatballs was splattered on the stove and the wall behind it, but we didn't care. Grandma just smiled and said a messy kitchen was the sign of a creative cook. After the kitchen was returned to its original condition, we went upstairs to begin the transformation of Grandmom's room. Craig and I were in charge of blowing up the balloons, and it was Grandmom's job to tie them. She laughed at us as we let go of the balloons and watched them zoom around the room as they deflated. This made more work for us, but we didn't care. We used static electricity to hang the balloons on the walls, my grandmother's head being the conductor. Once the balloons were hung, we started on the streamers. The ceiling and walls were covered with them. We put streamers on anything that would stand still, including Grandmom. We used her hole puncher to make confetti. I think we got more on the floor that afternoon than we did at midnight. Grandmom showed us how to make paper hats to wear, and we decorated them with markers and glitter. And by the time we finished, her room looked like the royal ballroom in Cinderella. Or so I thought. Now it was time to bring the food up. Grandma used the good silver trays. She always did little things like that to make Craig and me feel special. We even got to use the good crystal. She said it was the only way to toast in the new year. We set the table in her room with tablecloth and candles. Her bureau was transformed into a buffet table. For entertainment, we watched Dick Clark's New Year's special. We were all in pajamas, lying in bed, snuggled closely, enjoying being together. By the time midnight came, Craig was already asleep. Since we couldn't begin the party without him, we began popping balloons in his ear to wake him up. Boy, did it ever. He jumped out of bed and looked around. Grandmom told him it was midnight and time to open the champagne. And when Grandmom opened the bottle, the cider came shooting out just like in the movies. We filled our glasses and screamed, "Happy New Year," throwing confetti all over the room. We pulled all the balloons down and began popping them. The three of us danced around the room, throwing confetti and singing until we collapsed on our bed from exhaustion. Confetti and pop balloons surrounded us. To this day, whenever I think of her, I always remember that night and how special my grandma made me feel. Well, I need to tell you, I wish I was at that party instead of the one that the adults were having downstairs. Michelle got a B+ for this composition, but I give her an A triple+ because it touched my heart. My mom smoked red Pall Malls, unfiltered, and lung cancer took her at the age of 73. But God has been so very gracious to me. You see, He gave me a wife with the same qualities as my mother, and I acknowledge her on Mother's Day. Her children reflect her attitudes, her caring, her love, her kindness. They're bright, just like their mom, and they're loving and caring. She's a mother figure to lots of people, both within the congregation and outside. You see, a mother is God's deputy on earth. An ounce of mother is worth a pound of clergy. In a recent survey, stay-at-home dads were 80% more likely to have a heart attack than stay-at-home moms. The simple truth is men can't handle it. They've tried, and they see that old adage is true. A man works from sun to sun, but a woman's work is never done. Wow. You see, they have supernatural strength. They have uncanny wisdom. They're fountains of love and molders of the future. They're tutors, psychiatrists, disciplinarians. They wash, they clean, they cook. They do everything. They weed the garden. An 8-year-old wrote her mother a note for Mother's Day. "Dear Mother, here is the box of candy I bought you for Mother's Day. It's very good candy. I know, because I've already had 3 pieces." I remember growing up making things by hand, cards for my mother, and later on, things that I made in wood shop or metal shop. Back in those days, high school had shop. I think they need to bring shop back. I think we need to teach children how to use their hands. Amen? Wow. A 6-year-old and his 4-year-old sister presented their mom with a Mother's Day present, a small, spindly houseplant. While it wasn't the finest looking specimen, they had bought it with their own money. And Mom was thrilled. She hugged and kissed her children and told them she loved them for thinking of her. Her son said, "There were some other flowers we wanted to buy for you, Mom, but we didn't have enough money." "Yes," said his sister, "they had a real nice bunch of flowers at the shop that we were going to buy." "But I love this plant," said the happy mother. "I know, Mom, but these flowers would have been perfect for you. They were in a wreath, and they had a ribbon that said, 'Rest in peace.' And you're always asking for a little peace so you can rest." A school teacher gave her class of 2nd graders a lesson on the magnet and what it does. The next day, the teacher asked her students this question: My name has 6 letters. The first one is M. I pick up things. What am I? More than half the class said mother, not magnet. It's amazing. Wow. A teacher at school put this math question to little David. David, suppose your mother made a cherry pie, and there were 10 of you at the table. How much of the pie would you get? 1/9, he answered. She said, David, pay attention. There are 10 of you in the house. Don't you know your fractions? Yes, ma'am, David replied. I know my fractions, but I know my mom even better, and she'd say she didn't want any pie. You see, mothers sacrifice little things and big things. Mothers are blowers of noses, washers of ears. They do everything. They're generals directing all family affairs. They're tenders of home fires. They're builders of men and women. There are no adequate words to express how much we owe our mothers for their love, for their hard work, for their good words, for their kindness, for their loving deeds. And for those of you like me whose mom has passed on, Mother's Day is a day of remembering. And we acknowledge all mothers today. May God bless you richly.
We've gathered to worship here in the house of the risen Son.